DC Universe Online is a superhero-themed MMORPG that honestly ended up being a better game at its core than I had ever given it credit for. It has its shortcomings, but they didn't hinder Mrs Stix nor I from enjoying this as we played through it. Now, they say that being a superhero isn't for everyone, but they're wrong. And you know what, now that I think about it, you always hear people saying that they said this and they said that, but nobody is ever specific with who they even are. We're just supposed to, like take people's word that they are somehow a trustworthy, unbiased source? And I mean, let's be real here. Being a superhero means you have like super strength, speed, flight, invisibility, the manipulation of elements. The options are legitimately limitless. But here is a question for all of you. If you could have any superpower at all, any superpower in the world, and you're welcome to use your imagination here and to be as descriptive as possible, what superpower would that be? And don't make it weird. You know what else would be weird? Watching this video and not being subscribed. It doesn't take much to do, and it would help us get to 350,000 subscribers that much quicker. Plus, you'll get to be a part of our community, which is easily the greatest community on YouTube. Now, welcome back to another episode of Is It Worth Playing, where we sift through every MMORPG available right now in an attempt to find the best MMORPG in 2021. Today, we're taking a look at what is arguably one of the only superhero MMORPGs left that are legally playable without a private server, DC Universe Online. And yeah, you get to play with DC superheroes like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, along with supervillains like the Joker, Lex Luthor, and Harley Quinn. DC Universe Online was not what I had expected it to be. I played this game back about 4 years ago and invested about an hour and a half into it. I toyed around with the gameplay for a little bit. I saw the world, but ultimately closed out of it and never went back. And I'm not against saying here that I am disappointed in myself that I did, as the more I played through this game, the more fun I had. DC Universe Online is like Grand Theft Auto. No, actually not Grand Theft Auto. It's more like Saints Row than GTA in all honesty. It's dark, it's goofy, and it really doesn't take itself all that seriously. The world, much like both GTA and Saints Row, is completely open. You're given various different cities to navigate, to explore, to take and complete missions in, and you're capable of doing all of this with your superpowers of choice. The game is highly narrative driven, and if you know me, you know that I love narratives in my games, especially narratives that are well thought out, that are well written. There are side quests, plenty of side quests, but from what I'd experienced, we could mostly avoid them while leveling. Sure, eventually, if we wanted to be able to utilize our characters to their fullest potential, we would have to complete as much of the game as possible. But while leveling, we could take things at our own pace. Leveling is about what you'd expect. You take missions from one of two different factions, either the heroes or the villains. Depending on who you choose as your mentor, you'll have a slightly different story, but most of the quests remain much the same until they converge much further down the line. You run missions around the city, mostly helping your faction best the other faction. This is all driven by a very strong narrative, one of the strongest that I've seen in the entire MMO scene. And the story being driven by voice acting from legends like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. Dude, how is this game not one of the greatest MMOs of this generation? Over the course of our 12-ish hours streaming DC Universe Online, we never did much other than pursue the narrative though, unfortunately. Sure, it was plenty of fun seeing all of our favorite heroes and villains come to life and to be a part of this unfolding story, but running around the city for, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours repeating very similar quests left the experience feeling a little bit tedious at times. Thankfully, exploring the city and completing missions was easy. On the one hand, you possess various different superpowers at your disposal. Mrs Stix went to choose flight, and I happened to choose speed. I could run up buildings, I could propel myself literal miles across the city after leaping from one of said buildings, and duels with the waifu were actually kind of funny. While the basic superpowers weren't really of all that much aid in combat, you had a plethora of different abilities that you could learn. Melee abilities, magical abilities, super abilities. You had the freedom to truly build your character however you wanted to, which was admittedly a little bit overwhelming. I opted to go for a dual-wielding badass that could move at the speed of light and heal themselves. It made encounters fairly easy and allowed for me to defeat Mrs Stix in a duel to the death. The game utilized a unique hybrid action combat system. You had the ability to use your normal abilities at will, so for me, that was my dual blade slashes and even my energy beams, but when engaging enemies, you would lock on to a specific target. Combat itself, especially given when this game came out, felt pretty good quality. I mean, if you compare it to an Eastern MMO like, I don't know, Black Desert Online or Blade and Soul or maybe even Terra, then sure, it's going to come up short. But given this is a Western MMO, and other Western MMOs include games like New World or The Elder Scrolls Online, I guess, this game holds up well. One thing that really sold me on this game though is the freedom you have over your character. Not just your abilities, as I noted earlier. Rather, your character's appearance, your skin color, your outfit, superpower, fighting style, your weapon, your mentor, faction allegiance. This is a depth that I have not seen done anywhere else, and I cannot stress how important it is in terms of providing players with a unique class identity. It allows for us to become more enveloped in the game than ever before. The more we have to customize, the more we can relate, and the more unique it feels to us. Overall, DC Universe Online still looks surprisingly good. It has some great quality combat with a lot of class customization. It has a lot of customization overall, more than I've seen anywhere else. The world, or the cities rather, are large and filled with life and players. Seeing some of your favorite superheroes and villains and hearing the absolute god tier voice acting is one of the best parts of this game, and is, in my opinion, reason enough to actually try the game out. Yet even though it had an absolutely killer cast of characters and voice actors, the game still felt at times repetitious and slow, having us repeat the same defeat X bad guys or loot X items type missions over and over. The world, even though it was large and open, was largely copy-pasted and uninspired, which might offend some people to say, but I still nevertheless had to say it. And finally, the game graphically definitely shows its age. If this were remastered, overhauled entirely, not just with regards to some of the characters found within it, this would be absolutely stunning. Now, ultimately, DC Universe Online was an absolutely fantastic, enjoyable experience. I cannot believe that I never invested more time into this game in the past. Playing this for 12 to 13 hours on stream was some of the most fun that I have had streaming an MMO recently. Again, yes, it definitely had some issues that I think will definitely become much more irritating the further we push through the game. But I mean, no game is infallible.